just introduce Dr. Gary Samuelson. It's a pleasure to have Dr. Samuelson join us. I'm so glad that you were able to do that, Gary. Dr. Samuelson was awarded his Ph.D. in atomic medical physicists from the University of Utah. He has received the American Association of Physics Teachers Award for teaching excellence. Excuse me. He has worked on stabilizing nanoparticle structures, integral to several promising technologies. I should have someone else read this because my eyes are not on, Gary. Sorry about that. And was instrumental in discovering the future stabilization of redox signaling molecules and complexities in ASEA redox supplement. Dr. Samuelson is devoted to advancing the science behind his promising technologies to the highest extent possible. And he's also the author of a great little book, The Science of Healing Revealed. So, Dr. Samuelson, I want to thank you very much for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to you.
It's an extreme pleasure to be here with you this evening, all the way from Salt Lake City, Utah. It's about 7 o'clock at night in Salt Lake. It's been a beautiful sunny day, but it's very pleasing and satisfying to know that ASEA and this technology and all that it represents has been able to make it to Australia, and that you folks down there are starting for what we have and what's possible with this science. I hope that everyone can hear me. Am I coming through okay, Bart?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay, that's wonderful. Well, ever since I was a little boy, I was just absolutely fascinated with the truth of science. You know, I would be wondering about why plants grow and how how they grow. I'd be dissecting leaves while the kids were playing in the schoolyard, and I was kind of a weird child that way. This wonderful world that we live in is just full, and we're surrounded by truths that are just extremely interesting, wonderful, and beautiful. Including the wonders of our own existence, our own body, and the things that represents. And so when I went into the field of science of my choice, which was physics, my objective was to find out what happens in these tiny little atoms. And so I went to a field called atomic physics. Atomic physics has to do with the quantum states of the atom and how the electrons and neutrons and protons and all of the subatomic particles fit together to make everything work. And you can use these quantum calculations to figure out how molecules go together and then how larger atoms work. And then to understand the complexity and beauty of how all of these things interact. Atoms are bouncing up against each other at several billion times a second. They're very quick and rapid if you were able to watch them somehow in a video or a movie. Well, at about the end of my schooling, I got involved with a field of technology called nanotechnology. There was a cross-disciplinary program at the University of Utah that allowed physicists like myself to be able to collaborate with medical doctors in order to be able to advance medical science. And so I was trained as a medical investigator. And there are certain things that have caught my interest. One was nanotechnology. We were able to create nanoparticles, tiny little nanoparticles that would be able to go in and infiltrate tumors and target drug delivery to tumors. And that was just absolutely fascinating to me. And we also had the nanoparticles that could target viruses, disable viruses, and nanoparticles that were able to kill parasites that would cause malaria and such. And so I believed that I was in, and it is still, by the way, one of the greatest fields that exists in science on Earth today, as far as I'm concerned. But I found something that's even better. And it happened just by accident almost. I was talking to a neighbor of mine. It's a daughter of Vertus Norton. lives right next to us. In fact, Vertus Norton only lives about a mile up the street, right in that direction from my house. And so I heard that Vertus was an excellent, extraordinary, and articulate businessman who had restructured $30 billion corporations in the United States, Kraft Foods and General Foods. And I wanted to be able to talk to him to see how we could commercialize these little nanoparticles. So I decided to call him. Actually, my wife decided for me, and I called him, and he and I had lunch. I brought my little bottle of nanoparticles, and he brought a bottle of some saltwater stuff. And I set the nanoparticles on the table and said, "Vertus, this is the future of medicine. It can kill malaria," you know. And he stuck his bottle on the table, and he said, "This has really helped me out." And I said, "Oh, well, what is it?" "Oh, it's made out of salt and water." And I said, "Oh, Vertus, you know, we have a lot of salt and water. I think everything we possibly can know about it has already been discovered." And Vertus said, "Yeah, but we have $16 million worth of studies, or many millions of dollars worth of studies on this saltwater stuff." And I said, "Oh, really?" And so he gradually reeled me in. And at this meeting here, then he said, "Gary, would you help me figure it out? I think there's a nanoparticle or something involved." I shine my laser through it. There was no nanoparticles. You can see them refract light. And so he said, "Well, I'll give you the research. You can take a look at it." I said, "That's great." After reading the research, I started to realize that this may be one of the most important technologies that we have in medical science today. In more than 16 years of studies, there was absolutely zero indication of toxicity. That's very important to me. I don't want to be able to hurt anyone. Zero levels of toxicity also means that these components that are in this saltwater compound, even though they may be the most reactive, or they are the most reactive molecules we have in our body, are in such a balance that not harmful, and maybe even are produced by the body. I looked at the University of Utah and found that these molecules are the same things that are produced by the mitochondria inside of our cells. Now, mitochondria inside of our cells consist of about half of the body weight, half of our dry body weight. There are 4,000 mitochondria inside each heart cell, and an average of about 200 mitochondria inside every living cell in our body. And so these mitochondria have a very important role to play. They produce the energy, and that's why they're so important to the cellular metabolism, but they're also producing these very reactive elements, these redox signaling molecules, as we call them. They're reactive oxygen species. So there's quite a few things of interest that we have hit upon probably the best technologies that we could possibly have, because we're able to replace now these very important components. Well, the question is, well, do we want to replace them? For 50 years, we've thought that these reactive components actually that are byproducts of the metabolism are harmful. Yeah. In fact, the antioxidants are there to get rid of these components. And so that's pretty much my story. When I started to realize the importance and the incredible scope and fundamental possibilities that these molecules had to play, if indeed they, at that time I was not sure, if indeed they were able to be stabilized and utilized biologically, then they would consist of some of the greatest things that could possibly be given. I'll explain a little bit to that point. Now, Bart said that I can go through some slides with you. And so if that's all right with you, I'll go through some slides, and that explains a little bit of the science of redox signaling. Bear with me for a second while I share my screen with you. Okay, now hopefully you're able to see the screen on the monitor.
Yes, we can.
Good. Now I'm going to just go through some of the slides that I gave during the Velocity tour, actually convention here in Salt Lake City, if that's all right with you, Bart.
That would be fantastic.
Okay, very good. So for 50 years, as I mentioned, we thought that these oxidants were harmful byproducts of the metabolism. Now we're starting to recognize that a whole field of science over the last 14, 15 years now is developing to explain the very essential nature of these oxidants inside of our system. They are absolutely essential now. Redox biochemistry is basically the chemistry of the biochemistry of what antioxidants and oxidants do inside our body. So today you're going to learn a little science. I'm going to get into this. First of all, reduction and oxidation is taking place in every single chemical reaction inside of our body. And reduction, oxidation, when you put it together, is called redox. I won't go into the technical details of that, but it has to do with how oxidants and antioxidants work inside the body. Here's some of the oxidants that are listed that are actually produced by the mitochondria: superoxides, hydrogen peroxide, and hypochlorites. And there are several other invariants of these type. The popular myth has us believe that these oxidants come from vegetables and fruits and things that are good for us. Though they're produced inside our body, the most effective ones are actually produced in large amounts inside of our cells. The myth would have us believe that oxidants are free radicals that squash cells and have horns and, are awful things to have inside of our body. When now we're starting to understand that we're producing oxidant inside our body for specific purposes and that they are needed. In fact, now in the last 10 years, we've realized that without oxidants, we don't live. In fact, we don't live very well if we don't have enough of them. So the antioxidants and oxidants that are endogenous or internal to our body are equal partners. And they need to be in balance, and they need to be there. Here are listed, by the way, on the screen, some of the endogenous antioxidants as well as the oxidants. Both are of equal importance inside the body. Now that's a little bit new for some of you, but it has to do with the whole field of medicine now that it's called oxidative medicine, where instead of giving antioxidants, they provide the body with oxidants like ozone and such that seem to have very interesting effects. I don't have time to get into all the science. I wish I did, but I'll go through this. As we know, our body is made out of 50 to 100 trillion of these living cells. Inside each of these cells, they're almost like communities. There exist the things that help us live. Now, if you look at communities of houses, it looks almost like communities of cells. The streets, in this case, would be blood vessels that carry supplies to the cells. And the communication channels and the energy channels are represented by these green things, which are neuronal materials that carry the messages, both electrical and chemical, between the cells. These are becoming more and more important. If you're into stem cell technology, for example, you realize that the stem cells use these signaling messaging systems to differentiate into different tissue. You can stick a stem cell in a heart, it becomes a heart cell. And it does so because of the signals that are surrounding it. So these signaling messengers are very important. They're created inside the mitochondria. 90% of our oxygen that we breathe goes into this mitochondria. and produces the energy, but also produces these redox signaling molecules in our body. The mitochondria produce an equal number of both oxidants and electron donors inside the cells. This is supposed to represent a cell, and that mitochondria with the fireplace there represents the energy production units of the cell. Well, fire produces smoke, and smoke is a free radical. And smoke, just like the reactive oxygen species, needs to be taken care of. The antioxidants then are there to take care of it. When we have a perfect homeostatic balance inside of our cells of oxidants and reductants, we have a healthy cell. Now, when the cell is damaged for whatever reason, there are thousands of different pathways that can cause this to happen. The oxidants start to get out of control. It's like the fireplace not working in our house. And these free radicals and oxidants build up in our cell and create a state called oxidative stress. Oxidative stress now is a signal, a smoke signal that allows the body to understand that something is wrong. Well, actually, the cell understands it and the surrounding tissues. Then the cell knows something's wrong, it starts pushing all the genetic buttons it possibly can to fix it, to restore balance. And as you understand biology, this is the secret of life. To be able to restore homeostatic balance in a cell is the thing that keeps the cell alive. Now, we've taken the same combination of these oxidants and that exist inside the cell that are produced by the mitochondria and placed them in a bottle. And actually, I'm sorry about this for you people down there, but the liquid that's inside the Renew 28 is the same as the liquid inside the bottle of ASEA, except it's many times more concentrated, and it's in gel form, so it can be absorbed into the skin. The gel basically is a carrier. It's like a sponge, like tiny little micro sponges that go on the skin and then allow the liquid to seep in and absorb into the skin. So redox action is universal to all types of cells in all forms of life, wherever they exist on Earth. We're talking about our science that is so fundamental to all life that there's hardly anything more fundamental. There isn't anything more fundamental. It helps to repair DNA and cell damage. There's proper immune response that is mediated, and hormonal reception. The implications of having these molecules inside of our body is that we can slow or reverse aging. I mean, slow down the damage process and speed up the repair process or the regenerative process. Help normalize our metabolic pathways and normalize hormonal reception, and then optimize cell function. What this does is helps the body to repair and replace the damaged cells, the cells that are stressed, oxidatively stressed inside of our body. In preclinical trials, we found that these kill 100% of the microbes that they come in contact with in under 30 seconds. 100% kill. It doesn't matter if they're resistant or not, of the bacteria and viruses that have been tested. And there's no effect on the beneficial flora or bacteria of the gut. Now, this is really important because we've studied over 160 people, and they've done fecal studies, and they see no effect on the healthy microbiome of the gut. So cells have shown no inflammatory markers when we placed in contact with ASEA. Antioxidant efficacies in these cells went up by 500%. And it protected the healthy cells. And yet, when we damaged the cells on purpose to see what happened to damaged cells, the damaged cells died in these cultures. They died, and the healthy cells were preserved. So it helps to draw the line between healthy and damaged cells and allows the body to get rid of the damaged ones and to regenerate and protect the healthy ones. It increases sensitivity to hormones, and it reverses aging. We saw cells that had aged in our cultures. They don't respond. They don't respond to hormones. They don't respond to stimulation. And when we put the ASEA in those cell cultures, they started to behave like normal, healthy cells again. They responded to normal stimuli. And it's incredible. These things we didn't expect. This is the reason I'm here today, because the science is so compelling, and there's so much to do in understanding how and why these things work. We also have preclinical trials, and we've done it in mammals, in cats. Oh, I mean, sorry, in dogs and mice and other. Or I'm sorry for those who don't agree with that. This was actually done before ASEA came along. But there's over 20 years of data. Again, there's absolutely zero toxicity exhibited, no abnormal histopathologies. Mice ran longer. They ran 20% longer to exhaustion in controlled studies when they were given ASEA versus the salt water that was given to the other control groups. And antioxidant capacities increased in mice, and that was demonstrated by lipid peroxidation getting less, and glutathione oxidation also tending more toward the reduced species of glutathione. Those are markers that allow us to see what kind of levels of oxidative stress we have in our body, and those were decreased. And also metabolism markers were normalized, and the body utilized more efficiently energy from fatty acids. In humans, we had controlled randomized double-blind studies. There were no adverse effects at all exhibited in any human. Complete blood work was done, comprehensive analysis in many, many different indicators. In fact, more than 270 indicators, blood indicators, were monitored in these trials. We found that there were shifts in the metabolites. Those are the indicators that show what our metabolism, what the mitochondria inside of our cells are doing. So these chemical indicators that show what our mitochondria are doing shifted, which means there's a real measurable physiological shift that happens when people start consuming or come in contact with this product. And I'm sure that many of you are familiar with the skin results that we've had recently. There's a reduction in skin damage, 20%, over 20%, in all types of skin damage, including wrinkles and blotches and skin smoothness and such, and skin elasticity. And it increased by 20%. There was reduction in cellulite. There was an increase, a significant 16% increase in the circulation, blood circulation at the surface of the skin when the Renew 28 was applied. Reduction in cellulite, and then again this surprising increase in elasticity. That means something is happening on the cellular level. Okay, what's the future then of this technology? What can we do with something that's able to regenerate cells? Now let me kind of back off here and give you just a feel for the importance of this. For years, we have known that all health conditions, health problems, whatever that we experience have something to do with dysfunctional cells. Cells do not function as efficiently, and they become damaged, etc. And these dysfunctional cells then are at the source of every condition that we might have. Let me give you some examples. If our body's not producing insulin correctly, for example, it's because of the beta cells inside our pancreas. They have stopped functioning. If we have Parkinson's or other neurodegenerative problems, it's because there is degeneration in the in certain brain cells. If we have pain or our parts of our body are not functioning correctly, it's because there is damage to cells. And this damage needs to be repaired or replaced. Our body has naturally inside of ourselves these processes to do so. And these processes are not specific to any type of organ or system or tissue in our body. They are general and universal to every type of tissue and set of organs that we have. So it's almost mind-blowing to think of the different types of implications this has for our body. There are very little limits. There are very few limits at what this can not do. In fact, I don't know if there's anything that it can't do, because when we stimulate our cells to help the regenerative processes become more efficient than the degenerative processes, then our body is winning. It's regenerating healthy tissue faster than it's degenerating and losing healthy tissue. This is really the key, and it's also the key to help slow aging and help slow other types of conditions that lead to the decline of our health. And so what can we look for in this future of this redox technology? Well, one of the most obvious things for athletes is that, well, when you use muscles, you destroy them, or you damage the muscle cells. In fact, this means it's part of building muscle. You have to destroy the muscle that's weaker, and then it builds a stronger muscle on top of it. Well, all of these muscular repair and replacement has to do with these redox signaling messengers working, the regenerative processes working like they should inside muscle cells and bone cells. James Watson, who discovered the helical structure of DNA, is doing research on redox signaling. In fact, he's championing the field of redox signaling across the world. Thank heavens. It's about time these people are starting to stand up for this science. He says there's a delicate balance between the two, that means oxidants and reductants. Physical exercise prompts the body to make large numbers of oxidants, molecules called reactive oxygen species. And then it helps forge the chemical bonds which stabilize proteins and do other very essential things inside the body. These oxidants now are understood to be essential. Now, James Watson bases this on mouse studies where they've taken mice and by the use of antioxidants, eliminated oxidants inside the mice. What did they find? They found that the mice became sicker. They started to die. They were more prone to cancer. They died earlier. So you take the oxidants away from the normal physiology in mice, and they become sicker. They're not able to heal, repair, and replace damaged tissue as well, or detect damaged tissue. And I'll go on from there. I don't want to spend too much time here, but how about the immune system? The immune system is made out of cells that are born inside of our thighs, our thigh bones, inside the marrow of the femurs. And these immune cells are trained by signaling molecules to follow the redox signaling signals. These redox signals are formed whenever there's damaged tissue. So the immune system and this immune cells follow damaged tissue, follow these signals that lead to damaged tissue. When they arrive, they get rid of bacterial problems and also the damaged cells. The principal signaling system in the immune system is a redox signaling system in the innate immune system. There is much research that's being done now on the immune system with reactive oxygen species and reactive nitrogen species. They fill key functions in immunity, and this is a review paper representing hundreds of articles. Now, just to let you understand, in this field of redox signaling, now I've counted about 110 to 120 peer-reviewed publications that are published on these topics, on reactive oxygen species and what these molecules do inside the body, every month. And that it represents over about 1,500 months of scientific investigation that we have at our fingertips every month. And so there's an explosion, there's an absolute explosion of knowledge and information related to how these things work inside of our body. In our cardiovascular system, the redox signaling transmits communication through our whole cardiovascular system through a layer of cells called the endothelium. There's the inside layer of every blood vessel. And it's the layer also that lets the immune cells out and signals cell damage in the surrounding tissues. And if you could look down at the bottom of the screen, those little red dots are mitochondria inside our heart muscle. And you notice they're about 4,000 mitochondria, or if you're to look there, you'd see that there's 4,000 mitochondria inside of those heart muscles. These guys need to repair and replace themselves very quickly. They can't rest, and damage inside the heart cannot be sustained. So the redox signaling is very active, as well as energy consumption inside these cells. So here it is, reactive oxygen species in the cardiovascular system. It says it took till the 1980s to recognize the importance of reactive oxygen species as important players. Now it's widely accepted. And crucial physiological roles are not only various diseases, but also in maintaining cellular homeostasis. That's exactly what we were talking about before. I just kind of dumbing it down a little bit so it can be understandable to the general people who haven't studied science. In our endocrine system, redox signaling, it participates in virtually every aspect of hormonal transmission. Hormones are signaling messengers, and the redox signaling messengers interact with hormones, and they work with the hormonal systems in order to be able to carry these messages to the body. We found that it seems in observation that when someone starts to apply these redox signaling molecules, now you can apply them to your skin and they'll absorb into you. You can apply them to your neck and they'll absorb into different areas. Now you can apply them to the base of your neck and they'll absorb into the face and head area. There's different ways that you can get these redox signaling molecules into your body. When they're in there, it seems that they help to make the hormonal reception more efficient. We've seen this in our cell cultures too. Hormonal reception becomes more efficient. It regulates the insulin that comes from our pancreas. A lot of people don't know this, but glucose or sugars, especially easily digestible sugars like white sugars and white breads, are like gasoline to our mitochondria. When they go in there, they start to it's like throwing a bucket of gasoline on a fire. It flares up, and all the smoke and the oxidants, especially hydrogen peroxide, causes an environment of like a smoky environment inside the cells, this is an indicator to the beta cells that there's too much sugar, and they start to increase the production of insulin. Insulin is supposed to shut down or consume the sugar, turn it into fat, and turn it into energy inside the rest of our body to get that sugar level down, so that these poor guys can get off of their emergency, modes and get their fires burning more like normally. If there's too much smoke in these beta cells, then it causes a lot of really bad problems. Insulin actually goes down. The immune system may even start to destroy insulin cells, producing cells, and all of the things reverse. They do the exact opposite of what they should do. This happens because our diets now here, at least in the United States, contain way too many processed, easily digestible sugars. So current redox on the endocrine system shows us that these redox signaling molecules are absolutely essential. Again, excessive production of ROS is associated with human disease, but apparent low levels of ROS are required, I should say. It says maybe here, but they are required for normal cellular functioning and intercellular signaling. So here's some of the things that are coming out. Renew 28, you've seen many of these studies. The effects on skin are obvious. It's the same thing that happens with the liquid. These redox signaling molecules are able to be absorbed into the skin and into skin cells, and inside there increase efficiencies for repair and replacement of skin cells. So if there's damaged skin like wrinkles and blotches and such, these redox signaling molecules get inside the damaged skin and make it more likely that the normal healthy processes that the skin cells have to repair and replace themselves are more efficient. And it's a beautiful mechanism of action. You've seen this, I'm sure, several times. It increases it dramatically improves the condition of the skin. And here we can see some of the pictures. Well, the king of our signaling system inside of our body is the nervous system and the brain. And 20% of our oxygen is metabolized in the brain. You can imagine that a lot of that is turned into these redox signaling systems that maintain balance in the vital fluids in the brain as well, and help these messages or these signals to be passed back and forth efficiently. The same as in all other tissues, it helps the signals become more efficient. So I'm going to go really fast through some of these things. I'm running out of time, and I'm not sure what Bart would have me do here. But we're seeing a lot of research come out on how important these reactive oxygen species are to our nervous system. Our lungs, oh my goodness, we've studied these little small endothelial cells of the lung for 5 years. Or I'm sorry, we, meaning the people actually that had the technology before me, had studied them for 5 years, and I had access to those studies. We've seen incredible regenerative properties inside lung. So there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that we have now a safe and effective way to help cellular regeneration become more efficient in any form of life. I mean, the liquid works on plants. It works on animals. It works on all forms of life. I've seen this thousands of times, in people, thousands of people, and in many times in my own family. And there's absolutely, in my mind, no doubt that these are very significant things that are happening. So I'm going to go on Oh, I have some more slides too. The digestive system. Intestinal lining is turning over every 3 days. Those are the little, what they call brush cells on the end of the villi that absorb their nutrients. They get damaged and replaced on the average about every 3 days, the whole lot of them. It's important that gut health, they do so. As you can imagine, redox signaling is the primary signaling system that lets them detect damage, repair, and replace themselves. Reactive oxygen species is very prevalent in these cells. So I hope that I have given you now a nice little overview of the science and the future of redox signaling. There doesn't seem to be much restriction in what we're going to be able to do in the future with these things. It's an incredibly exciting field. We're just starting it, and it looks like it is destined to become the greatest field, or one of the greatest fields that will spear medical science into the future, spearhead, I should say, medical science into the future for the next 100, 200, 300 years. So thank you very much for your attention and listening to me today.
Gary, we're incredibly grateful for your time. Thank you very much. That was fantastic. I tried to turn the camera around so that you could see the group and they could all wave at you, but we had a little bit of a connection problem. We did that, so I'm not going to risk that. Just one question. I want to just be respectful of your time, but you pretty much covered all the questions that I had written down that we could ask. It was fantastic information, but sometimes, just one question that I'll ask you, some people, when they use the product, go through a little bit of a situation where maybe, I think most of us here understand detoxing of the body, but some people, when they use the product, their skin might flare up a little bit. Maybe just kind of share with us a little bit on maybe the dosage. Some people use more or less, maybe cut back a little bit. Could you just address that for us?
Sure, I'd be glad to. On a cellular level, when there's damage or toxic chemicals inside of our skin, we use toxic chemicals on and around our skin all the time. They accumulate inside the cells, and one of the things that may happen when you apply these redox signaling molecules is that they try to start cleaning up these, what I call the slum neighborhoods. The areas where there's a lot of toxic damage and such. When the skin cells or any cells in the body start cleaning this up, they start throwing out all these toxic things that they've stored, and this can cause for a temporary period of time irritation in that area. It's the same thing we've seen actually with people that have come back from military service. They have to be very careful because they've been exposed to toxic elements, and they have to be careful. Yes, cutting back on the amount and drinking much water, drinking a lot of water, doesn't matter if you're just using the gel, will help the body to flush out and get rid of these things. So you can cut back for a while, only put smaller amounts on until that cleanup process is done, and then you should be okay.
In terms of people who are taking nutritional supplements or maybe on some prescription sort of things, this is just going to help their body do what it's supposed to be doing naturally anyway. So there's no harmful effect there. Is that something you could address?
No, we haven't seen any contraindications or interference with any other type of medications, except for maybe hormones. It makes hormones more efficient. As far as the nutrients and the supplements are concerned, actually, those things are not contained inside ASEA. It only makes them these cells more efficient. When you make the cells more efficient, the cells need more nutrients and need more supplies in order to be able to build cell structure correctly. Well, obviously, if they're there, it'll work. Can I switch back the screen to that last slide? Would that be all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Here, I'm going to switch it back to this last slide here. You guys here?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. Those guys are construction guys. They're building a building in very much the same way that that cells are built inside your body. And I just show this, that the micronutrient supplies that come from your foods and from your supplements are these guys that are needed to build the cells. The DNA blueprints are in the cell. Each cell, in fact, each cell has all the sets of DNA blueprints for every single type of cell in your body. And then you have the power. But what are these guys? I mean, obviously, without these guys, not very much would be done. These guys are the messengers that carry the information from the blueprints and others into the workers that are building the building. These are the signaling messengers. We cannot forget about them. Inside of a living, normal, healthy cell, we need supplies, we need nutrient supplies, and we need the messenger system to work. Otherwise, we don't have efficient building of cells. That's the same in our skin cells. If we have the supplies that we need, as well as the messengers that are available from these redox signaling from a Renew 28, then we get very efficient skin reconstruction. In fact, some of our clinical data now says that we, instead of now 28 days skin regeneration, we're seeing with Renew a 16-day skin regeneration cycle. It's a very much more efficient. So maybe we should start calling it Renew 20 or Renew 16. I don't know, but anyway.
Gary, thank you. Appreciate your time. Let's give him one more round. Gary, there's a couple people that have a couple quick questions. Are you okay for just a couple quick questions?
I'm here.
Okay.
Thanks, Bart, and thank you, Dr. Samuelson. What about in the case of transplant, when people have lung transplant?
I can't hear the question, Bart.
The question was, what about in the case of a transplant? Just having the body, assimilate that new organ or that implant. Any comments on that?
Yes, of course, we need to be wise and careful because the body can reject the organ. We know that. And we're not sure what redox signaling has to do with that. We've never seen any problems with Renew 20 in that regard. But it's still better to be careful. It's best to maybe start low and go slow in that case.
Okay.
Thank you.
And yes.
I have a son, or actually two sons, but one with autism.
Mhm.
How much should my son be drinking for autism?
Okay. The question was about has a son with autism and was just wondering, kind of on a dosage sort of a thing. Maybe what kind of results people could expect with something like that.
Yeah, normal amounts, 2 ounces twice a day seem to be okay. Often you'll see responses. It's extremely important in this case to use a lot of water because you need to get the toxins and the that are that may be causing problems. But there's no as far as we've seen, in fact, that we've seen some pretty great things. I was at an Autism One conference just about 5 weeks ago, and feel free to look me up on the internet. I was just Google Autism One Samuelson, and you can see my presentation that I gave to that community because of some of the feedback that we've received. So Lots of liquids. Don't be afraid to reduce the amount if you see the headaches or discomforts taking place for a little while. These again are temporary things.
Fantastic. We got one more question, and yes.
I used to have 2 knee replacements and 2 shoulder replacements, and with the knees, for example, it's just bone on bone, and you hear the crunching all the time with the bones and that. And
yeah,
can this help regenerate? I mean, can I do away with having operations? Will this regenerate by taking the, say, for example, or putting the review on?
The question, Gary, has to do with kind of gentleman who's getting replacements all over the place, knees and shoulders, and and so in the process of healing, or even in just helping the body to regenerate, some of the tissues, the cartilage, that sort of thing. Any comments or thoughts along those lines?
Well, regeneration rates, as far as we've observed, one of the reasons I believe in this product so much is because you can see how fast tissue is regenerated in cuts. My wife cut her finger. Many of you have heard the story. It was bleeding. I asked her to put it inside a cup of the sea liquid, and bleeding stopped immediately, and I saw healing take place in seconds. That normally takes minutes, and healing takes place in hours. That normally takes days. The next day it was healed over completely. Now we would imagine that sort of response also happens internal to our tissues, internally, where it's not so visible. And so you would expect to have increased efficiencies in those areas of healing in those areas.
Okay.
This seer and the review, they penetrate the cells of the body, right? And then regenerate, all those things start from within the cells of the body. Now, I don't think there's too many things I know outside of any medication that does this sort of thing. Now, with reflexology on the bottom of your feet, you've got all these points at the bottom of your feet which go onto the various parts of your body.
Yeah.
And if you put the Renew 28 on the bottom of your feet, for example,
yeah,
you're going to help renew and regenerate the cells of your body by doing that.
Okay, Doctor, I don't know if you could hear that, Dr. Samuelson. I'll just reiterate the feet. We're talking about reflex points at the bottom of the feet. If any thoughts on utilizing, using the Renew 28, for example, where there might be acupressure, acupuncture, points, places. Certainly, the feet is a big area for that.
Yes, please. Those signaling systems actually seem to, as you have seen in these points, come together and network. And I don't know if there would be a better place to put it than in the feet, on the feet area.
We're gonna be bathing in this stuff, putting it on the back of our neck.
I wish we could.
Cellulite, absolutely fantastic. We've got one last question, and then we're gonna let you go. Yes. Actually, I'll,
Doctor, my husband had cancer of the prostate, and the metastasis to the bones. He didn't have the chemotherapy. Is too sort of sensitive to that. Thanks God.
Mm-hmm.
How there will be your comment and eventually starting to the dosages with the fluid and the redox, please.
So I think I got the question. You just got to, and I know that you've got to be, kind of, what should we say, politically correct in how we answer some of these questions. But as her husband's gone through some chemo or had cancer, and he didn't go through the chemotherapy process, but maybe I'm not. Yeah.
No. My husband has got a prostate cancer for about 10 years now, and he did not have the chemotherapy. He had the radiotherapy in the past, like 5 years ago. And thanks God he's sensitive to the chemical stuff. So how this, if you've got any sort of, if you can comment for me, please, with these dosages, with the fluid and the Redox gel to start with?
Well, like I had mentioned before, and Bart mentioned also, this is a supplement, and it's meant to supplement the normal redox signaling systems of the body, which help to detect, repair, and replace damaged tissue. And I can't really tell you much more than this. I can tell you a little bit about what you might need in the case of large-scale tissue damage. And personally, this kind of kills me to have to not be able to tell you, but you can take up to 8 ounces twice a day of the liquid, and that seems to be the maximum amount that gives you the maximum efficacy. But I would suggest, by the way, that if you're using the gel, you would put it in the area of your body that is most proximal, is closest to the area where there's damage, there's cell damage, and that way you have a better chance that these cells will be able to repair and replace themselves more efficiently. I'm sorry, I can't go into any more detail there.
Gary, we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. You have a fantastic evening. We really appreciate you very much.
Oh, thank you, Bart. I wish I could be down there with you. I hope I will someday.
We'd love to have you anytime. You're welcome.
And that's Independence Day, isn't it?
Oh yeah, you know, it's for us it's July 4th. It's Independence Day, so we're going to start moving into how this opportunity can create some real independence for all of us as well. So so great what you've done.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for what you're doing.
Okay. Bye for now.
Bye.